Hey folks, Pete here from Thairish Times, standing in Koh Chang. We're back again. We cannot get enough of Koh Chang. Excuse the hat and the glasses. I am from Ireland and it's 2 p.m. in Thailand, so you can imagine it's burn time for me. So let's get this intro out of the way before I turn into a lobster. Anyway, on Saturday we arrived in Koh Chang. I was in the hotel room chilling out. All of a sudden I see Ryan, who's doing a live stream, the Naked Guru in Thailand. He was doing a live stream from Koh Chang. And then he said where he was staying on Koh Chang in the live stream. So I quickly Googled it. Turns out it's just right across the road from where we're staying. So I was like, I have to go and meet him. So I went over and met him and I said, Ryan, will you do an interview? And he said, yes. So that's it, you're about to watch the interview now. I really like Ryan's story. It's, how would I describe it? You know, I really admire people that have come back from adversity in their life, and Ryan has overcome alcohol addiction. Now, I've never been an alcoholic, but I know people that were alcoholics, well, still are, recovered alcoholics. To beat alcohol addiction is a really tough thing to do. So I admire that, and I really wanted to talk to him about that, and he agreed to do it. We spoke about it. We also spoke about life in Thailand, because Ryan has given up everything really. Like, he's given up the corporate world. He was an entrepreneur, he ran businesses, and he gave it all up to live off the land in rural Thailand. And that's really interesting. You know, I really want to talk to someone that's done something different to me, has lived a much different life to the life I've lived. I'm really curious about that. So we interviewed Ryan. It was a great experience for me, and I'm happy to share it with you on the channel. So without further ado, let's get into it. If you liked the video, give me a like, leave me a comment, and thanks for watching. Ryan, it's a pleasure.
Yes, pleasure's all mine, mate.
Yeah, this is totally coincidence, or how would you describe it? Our paths crossed. You were doing your live stream and you said, well, I was in the hotel and I just was on YouTube, and then I saw you doing your live stream, and for everyone who doesn't know, we're in Koh Chang, and I was like, wow, he's here. Because like, I've been following your channel for a while, and you've got a great message, and that's why I was like, straight away jumped on the bike, came over here, because it's a pleasure for me to tell your story on the channel. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get into it.
There are no coincidences though, right?
Yeah, that's it. Like,
it's interesting because you bump into a lot of different subscribers, other people doing YouTube, and I guess we all kind of commingle together, right? We all kind of find these places. What a small, like, bizarre place to kind of hook up as well. The Secret Pearl, just this tiny little beautiful bar, beach bar on the beach. Just a lovely location for it as well, right?
So let's start off at the very easiest question. Where are you from and what brought you to Thailand?
So I'm originally from Bolton in the UK. Went to university in Lancaster, studied psychology there. And then in the old days, I was in the nightclub business. And I started my own kind of little marketing company for nightclubs. And they hired me in kind of a corporate role. And I was only in my early 20s. And I was in Cambridge running the Fez Club in Cambridge. And I was in the office one day and it just occurred to me, it's like, I'm so young in the corporate world that I'm starting my career now, and this is going to be it forever. You know, if you really get deep in the corporate world and take on a career, that's going to be it. And I was like, no, I'm not ready for that. You know, I want to go and live my life first. I want to have some adventure. So I said to my colleague, you know, I'm going. And she said, will you get me a tuna and sweet corn sandwich? Because she thought I was going to Tesco for lunch. And I said, no, I'm going. She said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to Thailand. And I just walked out of the job, and it was this weird pull, just this random pull to say, like, you know, F it, let's just go. And it was that calling, you know, that calling that I think that many people have. I think that every human being has that calling to just go on an adventure. It's the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. It's the Hobbit leaving the Shire. It's something within all of us that has that call to say, you know, I don't just want the normal. I don't just want to do the same thing over and over again. I don't want to be part of somebody else's story. I want to carve my own story. I want to go and do something unique and different. And the wanderer sets off on your journey if you've got the balls to do it, I guess. And it happens differently for different people, but that's how it happened for me.
So you were traveling here and then you were like, that's it, I'm just going to stay, and you just stayed?
Yeah, I was traveling here and first just kind of a bumming backpacker. And then I got into the teaching thing. You know, a lot of us start out in the teaching thing, and I learned a lot through that, and I ended up obtaining some investment, and I opened 2 English schools, one in Hua Hin, one in Ratchaburi, and that was kind of the entrepreneur in me again at work in Thailand. And then after that I built a jazz lounge, because I'm a saxophone player. So I built the saxophone lounge on Soi 94 in Hua Hin, did that for a few years, and then another few years working for an Antara hotel. So it's been quite a journey, and now obviously I fell into YouTube, which is something you'd never expect of me. I was off like 3 years off social media before YouTube. I'm the least likely person you would expect to be doing YouTube. My wife is like, how are you doing YouTube? It just doesn't make sense. and that's where I am. That's the journey in a nutshell.
So on your channel, you've spoken a lot about like addiction and your past life, and you said that when you had a saxophone bar, it was like fun, it was like you were the life and soul of the party, but you also said, I think at one point, that it kind of took a toll on you, on your mental health. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so with the channel, I always try and talk as open and as authentic and often as uncomfortable as I possibly can. It's not comfortable sometimes to talk about the dark sides of life, the bad sides of life. Many of us would love to portray that our life is kind of perfect and it's all living the dream and it's all good, but we all know that there's 2 sides to the coin, the yin and the yang. And there's bad parts in life, and you go through crap, and some people suffer depression, you know, some people have PTSD, some people have mental issues. It's all very normal, but it's all something we don't talk about generally in open society and culture. It's kind of somewhat frowned upon in some circles, but it's also uncomfortable to talk about things like that. And with the channel, I really wanted to test myself and to see the receptivity of, what if I vlog not only the good parts of my life, but also the crappy parts of my life? And that's what I've tried to do with the channel. So if I have a bad day, I talk about it on the channel. You know, if the depression's kicking in, I'll talk about it on the channel. Now, I went through quite heavy addiction, because working in the nightclubs in the UK, it's just one big party, of course. So it's just party time the whole time. And with drinking, for me, it was always one of those things that gave me a boost of confidence. And you know, it's social. It's what we do socially, culturally. You've had a bad day, you have a drink. You've had a good day, you celebrate and have a drink. And so it's kind of one of those things that in England is just normal. And as I spent more and more time in Thailand, it becomes part of the expat life just to drink all the time. And some people are alcoholics and some people are not. Some people are heavy drinkers, and there's a difference. The alcoholic comes to drink to escape in some way, or to kind of deal with some root pain, and that pain can come from childhood, or it could come from something that's happened in your life, some form of trauma. Couldn't come from general unhappiness. And something switched for me when I was a musician playing on my stage, playing saxophone. The alcohol just became this, instead of just the party, it became a way to switch off the thinking mind. And some people, some of us in the world, are kind of plagued with a thinking mind. The addiction really was not so much alcohol, but it was thinking. And the alcohol allowed me to slow the thinking. And so it gave me some temporary liberation. And so I used it as a kind of tool of escape later on, after all the partying was done and all the good times had. And it became to a point where my whole body was just dependent on alcohol. Like, I'd get up and crack a beer open, and it was tough, and I didn't see any way out of it. And so, and I know there's a lot of people going through that. There's a lot of people not going through that too. Some people are just general drinkers. I'm not anti-drinking, you know, and I just sat with some friends here actually, everyone's having a beer. But what I've tried to do with the channel is be open and as honest as I can about my addiction and my journey through and getting out of addiction, because I've been sober the past 6 years and I quit smoking and whatnot. And I wanted to start the channel to kind of give some inspiration to others out there that might have already been through this journey, or that they may be going through this journey. Now, I don't want to make my whole channel about that. My channel's about my life, my family, Thailand, a lot of things. But there is a small thread of that story going through it, of my addiction, my working on myself, which is an ongoing process. I'm not a cooked goose. I'm not a finished product. You know, I'm not some kind of great person. I'm just working on myself. So I'm looking at my own neurosis, my own non-confidence, my own kind of flaws, and just working on them bit by bit. I'm doing that actively on YouTube. which can leave you feeling quite vulnerable, because it's not easy to admit that you're not perfect on YouTube. Many of us would like to believe we are perfect, but that's not necessarily, well, it's not true. We're all kind of working on ourselves in little ways, and sometimes you open yourself up for a lot of criticism from that. So if you show a flaw on a video on YouTube, then people are going to come down on you pretty hard. But that's okay, because I think it's about being honest, and that's why I called it the Naked Guru. And that honesty includes the honesty about my addiction, about periods of depression. Depression and addiction are very intimately linked. The addiction is usually some form of escapism from the depression. And we can be addicted to all kinds of stuff. So we can be addicted to food, you can be addicted to alcohol, you can be addicted to sex, you can be addicted to drugs, of course, be addicted to coffee. You can be addicted to constantly making yourself over, your own image. And it's so sticky. And for me, I've just tried to be open and honest about that as I can. And it resonates with some people and other people not so much, but that's okay. Like, my channel is really for people that are interested in my stuff. You know, I don't want to appeal to everybody. You're either interested in that journey or not, and that's cool. You know, and it's been very like eye-opening for me too, because you see yourself on YouTube, and you see parts of yourself where you think, I could probably do better than that. Or I could probably be even more honest and more frank, and tell people really all the full truth, and that's not comfortable.
There's probably people that are watching this now that they have an addiction of some sort. And do you have any advice for those people that are watching right now? Okay, so first of all, obviously, it's you've got to kind of know that you have an addiction, and that's quite difficult, because the ego will always try and convince you that it's not an addiction. So it would be like, well, I drink a lot, but I could go without it, hypothetically. But that isn't really the case, because you never do. And you're locked in kind of this horrible spiral where you feel depressed and you feel like my life's crap. And so you drink to get yourself out of that, or you do whatever your addiction is, you eat to get yourself out of that. And then that makes you feel even worse the next day. And so you're caught in this vicious loop. And the cure, the way out that I can see, and what AA kind of works with people with, is getting yourself out of that loop, getting yourself out of that continuous thought loop. And the methodologies for that are quite various. Many people do it in different ways, and I'm never prescribing one way. But obviously AA is one for alcohol. NA is a good method. Spiritual practice is a solid method. Counseling is a good method. And for me, it's been plant medicine. So plant medicines are good methods. They're tools that you can kind of use to go in to your deeper self. Find out what is that on repeat there? What is that I'm suffering and replaying in my mind? Resolve it, and then because you've fixed the cause, you no longer need the symptom. So you no longer need that thing that you were attached to on the outside to make yourself feel good. So let's jump into your life, because you live like a very unusual life to most people. You basically,
really?
You gave it all up, man. You gave, like, you left the rat race, and now you're living in rural Thailand, living off the land, and you just built a bamboo hut. And how old are you? I think we're the same age, pretty much.
33.
34, so we're like similar ages. And here I am in Bangkok, which is busy, chaotic, and I'm looking at you in Buriram, and I'm like, wow, it's so different. We're in the same country. And I'm like, I'm just curious, why did you do it? Like, what was your inspiration to do it? How did the idea come about? Let's go, move to Buriram, let's do it all, let's give it all up.
Well, I think it's just the cliche, right? It's the cliche. It's our hero's journey again. You know, after the hobbits have been up the mountain of Mordor, they don't stay there. They don't keep going on the adventure. They return to the Shire and they chill out for a bit until the next adventure. And that's how I see our life. What we built there in Buriram is our little Shire, and it's just peaceful, and it's comfortable, and it's simple. There's no time there. There's no meetings there. There's no time to be awake, time to do this or that, and you're not part of any collective agreements or collective behaviors of anybody else. For example, you know, if you work for a company, you are part of that collective ego, what is the company. You know, you have to think in line with the company. Your time is dedicated to that company. In a way, I mean, you're free, but you're not really free. You're never truly free. So for me, my life has become a process of emancipating myself from systems to try and get as free as possible. And I class that as not being part of anybody else's story is important. Being able to do what I want with my time. And then being in this moment here. So not projecting to an illusory future that doesn't exist in my mind, or not replaying mental movies of the past in my mind of what happened or how I missed doing this, good memories or bad memories. So the process for me is just being present, being present, being present. And when you're in surroundings of simplicity, that's easier. I find it easier, you know, living in the bamboo hut, living simply. And I also see it as, it has its own unique challenges. So maybe the heat is a challenge, maybe taking care of the bamboo is a challenge. And that's really exciting for me because it's novel, something that's novel, and it's like, oh, now I have to take care of this bamboo. You know, how am I going to do that? Now we're planting a cornfield, how am I going to do that? And now I'm looking after a water buffalo, how am I going to do that? So it's not that you kind of just sit and do nothing, it's actually super busy. People think that, oh, he just lives in a bamboo hut and sits and does nothing. But the schedule is real busy. There's always the animals to take care of. We're raising a pig as a dog. So there's all these little projects going on all the time. And that, it just keeps it interesting. It keeps it simple. And it's not somebody else's story. It's me, my wife, and my little boy. It's our family. And okay, we're not wealthy. We're not going to have, we don't have any desires for the Mercedes or a big house or anything like that. But what we have in our mind is a little slice of heaven. And we did that together. And overcoming addiction has been part of that, giving up my desires, keeping my ego at bay, because I'm cursed and blessed with quite a big ego. And a lot of people that are addicted do. The ego is the big cause of addiction, you know, it gets out of control. Being on my stage as a musician was all kind of like, all my ego. And so it's keeping that ego at bay, staying humble. YouTube allows me to do that in many ways. Because you've got to still be straight with everybody and be honest, because people see, people know. You know, you can fake all you like on the camera. People know if there's something there in the background. So for me, you might as well just be honest about it.
How do you stay positive and not see the world in a negative way?
Relatively, I've got nothing to be upset about or negative about. But what I have to keep doing is reconnecting with my own gratitude. So I've got to, and it's something I talk about a lot on the channel, is like, okay, I'm grateful for this mango. It's like a delicious cold mango that's been in the fridge. I'm just filled with gratitude for it. And that just allows me to, I won't say stay positive, because there are negative thoughts and there are positive thoughts, but it's what's behind both of them, you know. The negative sometimes works out to be a positive, right? Think of all the bad shit that happened in your life. At the time you thought, this is the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. It's all over. And then when you look back on it now, you're like, wow, if that hadn't happened, my whole life would be completely different. Yeah, so the negative, it becomes like the cosmic giggle. The whole, hello.
Oh, we're doing it. We're Okay, can you wait 20 minutes? Because we've got the cameras rolling.
So yeah, I mean, this could be it. This could be the cosmic giggle. I just said the cosmic giggle, right? So it's like for me, I interact with my reality in a way that there is an intelligence beyond me at work. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but when something happens, I just treat it as like, what now? What is the cosmic guru teaching me now about myself? You know, when I see, if I have an arrogant moment on the camera, on the YouTube, and you know, somebody comments like, and they have a perfectly valid comment, they criticize me and whatnot, I'm like, yeah, that's cosmic teaching. That's the guru. The guru is not me as a person. The guru is life. Life is a school. It's a lesson. And so the positive and the negative, two sides of the coin. For me, I just interact with my reality like it's all here to teach me something.
How do you deal with judgment? Like, let's say, for me, right, I'm fine with people disagreeing with what I have to say on YouTube, but like, I'm not there to be personally attacked or for my wife to be attacked. And every so often, maybe 1 in every 200 comments is a real personal attack. And sometimes you read it and you can't even rationalize it. I'm like, where are they coming from with this? So how do you handle it?
Well, can I ask how you handle it?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you do it?
I don't engage. If there's a really nasty comment, I just don't engage. I just block the person straight away because I don't want to waste my time thinking about this negativity, something that's not true, and I'm trying to explain myself to someone that makes up like something that's not true, and then I have to explain myself. I'm wasting time. If someone writes a big paragraph, it's going to take me a paragraph back, and that's half an hour out of my day focusing on pure negativity. So I just delete the person and move on.
Yeah, I mean, my first point of call is there some truth in what they're saying? Because obviously, if my ego is reacting to it, if I let that in and something in it maybe rings true, the ego hates that. You know, if, for instance, you know, sometimes somebody will see a plastic bottle in the background of our house or something, and they'll comment, they're like, you know, you're on YouTube, maybe you shouldn't be promoting plastic bottles. And it's annoying because the expectation is there is that I'm perfect and or my family are perfect, and we're not. So that it's annoying, but then I think maybe it's true. And so we can look to improve ourselves for that. So that's the first thing I ask of the comment. Is it true? And is it pushing a button in me, in my ego, that I'm hung up somewhere? If I can let a comment affect my day-to-day sense of peace and happiness, maybe there's something wrong there, you know, maybe it's something I need to work on. Then if it's blatantly terrible, saying something usually about my son or my wife, I try to put an answer forward to humanize myself. Because sometimes when people see somebody on a screen, they think, you know, who's this guy, you know, on the screen, thinks he's so great, he's on YouTube and whatnot. You're not interacting in person, you don't know my family, we can't see each other's body language, we're not talking to each other. So there's some kind of dehumanized aspect there. So the person can kind of lash out because they don't know you. So sometimes I'll draft a comment which will kind of humanize myself a little bit and say, well, you know, this, and this. But if you've got proper, like, repeat offenders, it's better just to hide them from the channel, you know. I try and keep as much of the negative dialogue on my feed as I can, as one that isn't like blatantly offensive to my son or to my wife. I try and keep it up there because I also think other people that watch the channel get to see my reaction. And if you can show people that you don't always need to like be completely devastated by a comment, you don't always have to take it in and let it harm you, you know. It's often based on the ignorance of the other person in many ways. You know, it's there's some jealousy on YouTube. There's some kind of like, you know, some people don't have great lives, and sometimes it's through no fault of their own. I'll tell you a story. One guy from New York, one day he commented, he said, look at this idiot here on this YouTube. What a moron, you know, what an absolute moron. And so I replied to him, I said, hey man, like if we met, we'd probably get on, you do realize that. And then he sent me a PayPal for like 10 bucks or something, $10. And then he commented, he's like, you know what, I'm so sorry. I'm sat here in an apartment in New York, it's freezing cold. You're out there in Thailand enjoying yourself. And I just had a moment where I was just peed off with my own life, and you're living it up here in Thailand. And he said, I'm so sorry for that. And I was like, brother, like it's fine, like I get it. Because I feel for the other person too. It's not easy to live your life in circumstances that maybe you didn't dictate and with certain limitations that you can't control, and watch somebody else live a life of peace and freedom and doing what they want. That isn't easy, but for me, I empathize with that. Like, I get it, because not everybody has the same privilege. Not everybody has the same capacity or talent or skill to be able to do what other people are doing, you know. So I can understand sometimes how it's not you they're lashing out at, it's parts of themselves or their own life. Like a lot of people are going through a lot of crap at the moment. And sometimes we, and I'm guilty of this, we can be quite complacent because we'll jump on YouTube and be like, look how great it is here, look at this beautiful beach. Oh, it's paradise, I'm having a great time. Meanwhile, there's a family down there that can't afford to eat, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or somebody's stuck in lockdowns in some kind of militant country and they can't even go to the shop, you know? And you're kind of out here giving it the big one. So we can be complacent. Of course, we're trying to entertain, but we also have to try and not be too complacent and be wary of like the situation at hand. But you can't be overly like down in the dumps about it, because it wouldn't be very entertaining if that's all you're focused on. But there's a balance there. We have a responsibility, and I'm of the opinion that YouTube will teach you that. Like whenever the ego gets out of control, you'll get your ass kicked in some way. You know, when the ego goes out of control, you'll somehow, it'll turn around on you and it'll kick your ass. And you see that all the time. on YouTube. Maybe somebody does stupid stuff and then it comes around and gets them. Also, respecting your subscribers. Before, I used to think subscribers just comments, you know, just comments. And through the year of doing this, I've come to know many of them, and I've come to appreciate some of these people. They've been coming to Thailand for 20 years. They're 20-year expats. You know, they probably know more than you about a lot of stuff. And when I first started, I was a little bit condescending, like I knew everything about Thailand and nobody else did, because I thought that was my audience, people that had never been. But I've come to find that the audience now, they pretty much know everything about Thailand in many cases. And so why do I want to be condescending to them? Just present it how it is. You know, cut the shit.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed about YouTube is the content that you put out there, that's what you attract. So like, if you're making good quality content, like your channel. So I imagine the subscribers in your channel are going to be like-minded people. I say 99.999%. And it's the same with my channel as well. So that was one thing that took me about a year to actually know that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I was jumping around from different topics and building the actual audience. And it was just one day when I realized that, hold on a second, I've got a really nice group of people here, and it's usually like the same group that watch everything and comment on everything, and they're always positive. And then when the last 2 months when the Thailand Pass came in, a lot of people came into Bangkok, so I actually got to see the subscribers for the first time.
Yeah.
And that was really cool, because you actually sit down with someone, and like you said, it's not just text on a screen.
Yeah.
It's very easy to think that at the start, that, oh, this is just a sentence coming up. Hi Pete, where should I go to do this, and this? Oh yeah, go down there, and then you move on to the next thing. But that's actually a person there with a life that's actually giving up the time of their day to listen to you. And I think having that platform, we need to do good with it, or use it in a positive way. That's why we're doing this interview, because like I think this what we're doing right now is like super positive, and I hope someone out there is getting value from this. And yes.
Well, and this is exactly how we talked last night too.
Yeah.
So there's no difference in our conversation.
And you're exactly the same on camera as you are in person.
You notice that?
Yeah, the very same. If there's anyone out there that's thinking of starting a YouTube channel, what skills do you think they need?
You really need to kind of work hard at it, you know. And for me, it was just putting out content in the beginning. And also, like, you don't need a huge, big channel. Like, value the subscribers, the people that are with you on the journey. Value them. Don't get ahead of yourself. Again, it's ego again. Don't think you're better than anybody, because you're not. That's the whole thing about ego. It always thinks it's better in some way. Look how many people liked. Look how many people love me. I must be great. It's not always the case, you know. Put yourself on the level, you know, take the time to respond. I always respond to every comment, you know, and because I appreciate the people that are following the channel, but take the time to respond. Build that audience and of friends and subscribers and followers that are not your subordinates, or your inferiors, I mean. More of a small little community, that people that like you and know you, and you like them and know them. Like, pay attention to that. I think it doesn't matter if you've got a small channel, you know. Focus on that. I've never been about like, oh, I need to grow my numbers. I've never been like, oh, we need to get this channel bigger and bigger and bigger. I've been more about, is like, what do my current subscribers like, and what do they like about my content? Listen to the feedback. You know, they're going to tell you what they like. And most people like my family. They like the simplicity. They like the honesty. They like rural Thailand. That's the main thing. When I did a poll, they said, look, we like to see rural Thailand. A lot of them are retiring, so they plan to come and retire in Thailand. So they're like, I'm going to be going over there soon and whatnot. So I think, you know, find out what they want. Make sure there's a two-way communication between you and your subscribers. And so you're not just kind of producing stuff or copying other YouTubers. You know, there's a whole thing of, I'll copy that because it got a lot of views. Do your own thing. And I recommend it. Like, I really do recommend it. It's an interesting journey. You learn a lot about yourself through it as well. So I do recommend people do it. And then obviously meet up with other YouTubers. You know, Johnny, There's Something Happening, is an old friend of mine from years ago in the saxophone lounge. He helped me in the beginning. You know, met up with Paddy Doyle and stuff like that. And then you find that your audiences are kind of, they share similar interests. And so overlapping like that's good.
For me, YouTube has taken me way out of my comfort zone. Like, that was something I never thought I'd do. I'm not a big social media person. I never tried to be Insta famous or trying to any of that kind of stuff. But when I started doing YouTube, it opened up a whole new world to me. Like, I met a lot of people, like this is an example, and it really motivated me. I mean, like it brought out something in me that I never thought I had, like a real drive to find the next story, do the next thing. But in saying that, I always was careful to keep my ego in check and stay humble and not brag and pretend I'm living this, you know, create this false life. But yeah, it did. It drove me. Like when I knew that you were, what I say to myself is, if you don't ask, you don't get. So when I found out you were staying across the road, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go down, I'm going to shake hands with him, I'm going to talk to him, and I'm going to ask him. And if he says no, he says no. But if he says yes, he says yes.
Well, you have a wonderful capacity to listen. You know, it's one that I'm not so as patient with. But you ask a question and you really give the speaker some time to speak. And that's a skill in itself, if you're an interviewer. You know, some people kind of want to talk over. And with you allow somebody to kind of spiel their idea, you know, spin their riff, whatever it is. And yeah, I'm sure it's part of your story, your karma. But you had to do that. You had to start the YouTube channel. And that's the motivating factor for people. It's like you have to do it. You have to take the jump. And the time to do it can only ever be now. You can't do it in the future because it'll never come. So I'll do it one day, I'll go traveling one day, or I'll start my YouTube channel later. The only time you can start it is now. And you had to do that. At some point it was now, and it was 0 subscribers and there was 0 journey. And then you said, you know, I'm drawn to do this. You made the action in the present moment and you pushed forward with it, and it's added a certain color to your life, a certain interesting thing to your life. But you made that step. And that step is what all of us need to make, and it would be a different color and a different experience. But it's up to you to do it. No one can come in and say, well, I mean, somebody could come in and say, look, I'm going to give you a job in my company, it's going to pay X amount and whatnot, and good luck to you. You'll be part of their story, their karma, their little unfolding thing, you know. Even if you're earning millions of dollars, it's for you to find out what is your path, and what am I going to step out, and what in this present moment can I do that is going to lead to an adventure, lead to something new, you know. Same with addiction. You can't stop drinking tomorrow. You can't stop smoking tomorrow. It just doesn't happen. It's training the self to come into the present moment and observing your own behavior and being able to just not have that cigarette now, you know. It's all very much interlinked, but like you did it, and it's added so much quality to your life. Now the question is, what else could you do in the present moment that would lead to an even wider view and a more kind of unfolding of your life, and a deeper freedom, a deeper feeling of liberation internally, a deeper life, a deeper existence. And I don't know what that is. I don't know what it is you can do. For me, it's all just about being here now.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Here, shake my hand. It's a real pleasure, and this is great. You know, I have this. This is like our little thing now, cemented. In 10 years' time, I'll be looking back on this.
Yeah, it was good. It was good to talk. I didn't think we'd get so esoteric.
We got down. I mean, I'm going to have to edit this down. I don't know how. What am I going to take out of this? I've got a hard job in editing this one. But so I'll leave a link in the description for your channel, of course.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah, and I'll say the spiel now. To subscribe to the channel. What are we on? 5,850. We're 150 away from hitting 6,000. So get us up there. Smash the like button, and thank you very much for watching.
Thanks, guys.